I go back.
All right, let me switch to slides.
I'm going to give a quick little intro. And I want to welcome everybody to the Seattle Code Crafters meetup. We are a language agnostic group who really values writing good quality code tests and working in ways that make our code and our community better. Today we have Llewellyn Falco and Lada Kesseler. Did I say that correctly? The last name, Lada? Thank you.
Yep.
They're going to talk about better testing with approval tests. I met Llewellyn. I have no idea how long ago it was.
I don't either, but it definitely was at an Open Agile Northwest.
Yes, which is coming up in less than a month, and I would highly recommend everybody join us for that. But I'll talk maybe a little at the end just to remind you. I haven't met Lada, although she's in the Seattle area, which I was surprised to find out. So we're going to do that soon, I hope. I'm really excited to hear a lot about approval tests. I've enjoyed working with them here and there, sort of personal projects, and so I'd love to find out kind of more how we apply them to actual projects, actual stuff that we're working on. So with that, why don't you guys take it away?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paige. All right, so hello, I'm Lada Kesseler.
I'm Llewellyn Falco.
And this is beta testing with approval tests, where we show you some things you can do with your tests and how you can take your skills in approval testing to the next level.
Yeah. And this talk is going to have a lot of code and a lot of slides, and all the resources are here. I'll put a link to that in the chat. We will also show this again at the end of the thing, because I find that sometimes I prefer to figure out the resources once I figure out that I care about the talk. So if you're like me, we'll do it for you later, but you don't have to take notes or anything like that. Plus there's going to be a video recording of the whole talk. So braces and a belt.
All right.
Yeah, so this talk is actually going to be a retelling of an experience that Lada and I had over the course of many months, where she was working on a project where she just got it under test. And over a sequence of iterations, we improved those tests to the point that they became stakeholder documentation. And we want to take you on that journey again with us.
Right.
So where did we start, Lada?
Yeah, I think it's been like a couple months we've been working together, and so I had this system a chatbot application, right? And it had unit tests, pretty good ones actually, and decent code. But the thing is, we had to test it manually every time. So the actual end-to-end test, right? I had to deploy the system, run it through several commands, and just that got tiresome. So what happened is I basically converted those tests into kind of sort of unit tests that ran at the speed of the unit tests. And I was able to do that because I swapped the whole project into hexagonal architecture. And I was basically able to write tests against the core of that hexagon. So like DynamoDB or like Kafka was all abstracted, or like test stub, right? And now my test sends a message to the system, and it invokes all the insights. So I was very excited about it, and I wanted to show it to you.
Yeah, so let's go back. Like, do.
Right. Hey, Llewellyn.
Hey, Lada.
I can't find my code.
Swipe to the right or left. There we are.
There we go. Check it out. You know what? I'm really excited about those tests, and I wanted to show it to you. So previously I had to test all this stuff manually. So I basically converted them to unit tests, and now I can just, like that, run them like, I don't know, several seconds, and I know where the bot is, like we broke anything or not. So I'm really thrilled about it.
Like anytime we can take tests from manual to automated is like a huge win.
Yeah. So what do you think?
That's a good question. What did these tests do?
Well, you basically
so there's like a
bot, right?
Event notification. Oh yeah, bot. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So the bot, this is set up for the bot, so we can create a command, and then there's this hi, we say one message. This is kind of the setup, and then I send the hi to the bot, and the bot spits out the the questions to the user.
It's really good that you're here. I think I would have a hard time understanding this test without you. Let's, and that's sort of a problem. So let's start by like just stating it as a problem. Right. This test it makes sense to you, right? Because you wrote it, but it's confusing to me. Right. So whenever I find tests that are confusing, I always go to the testing circle. Let's do a quick review. So we talked about this in Learning Hour, right? But it's a really simple process where you just first you write your test on a whiteboard, and then you let everything sort of flow from that, right? So you take the whiteboard and you turn it into like, hey, what's the English of what happened? And you take that English and you turn it into code, and you let that code create a scenario or an output that sort of reminds you about what you put on the whiteboard.
Right.
So let's do this with this test. Can you whiteboard it for me?
Right. So basically, what this whole test does is this. When the customer says hi, the bot replies with, "Hi there, I'm your virtual assistant. What would you like to do today?"
Okay, well, that's very simple. I get that.
Right. It's pretty simple, right?
Yeah. So show me the code.
Well, yeah. I think I see the problem
in the slides.
So we have too many details in the tests, right?
Wait, advance one slide.
Right.
Oh, did that go to there? Okay, sorry. Take me to the code. I thought we had a slide for this, but we don't. So first the customer says hi. Where is that?
Right. Here.
Okay. And then the bot responds with something.
Yeah, hi there.
These plain message commands.
Right.
All right, cool. Let's go back to the whiteboard. Let's put this on the whiteboard or in the testing circle.
Right. So this is our whiteboard. This is where we start.
Okay. Turn that into English for me.
So that would be just as easy as customer says hi, and then we just verify the conversation.
Okay, so that's nice. 2 lines of code. Let's get our test to say the same thing. So let's go back to our test. Find me the hi again.
It's over here.
Let's extract that as a variable.
All right.
Nice. Okay, and then the rest of this, since that's the first line, the rest of it has to be the second line. So let's just grab the entire rest of this and extract it as verify conversation.
All right, verify conversation.
Just do it right here for right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's run that. Let's see that still works.
I mean, yeah, that should be just a go on because it just extracted some variables and functions.
Okay, well, this is nice. We got our 2 lines of code. Let's go back to our testing circle.
Okay.
So 2 lines of English, 2 lines of code.
Right.
And now we need to take a look at this result. So let's go back to the code. Where's our result again?
Oh, it's here. Basically, there's 2 commands.
Okay, and you're using assert that, and it contains exactly. Let's introduce a new concept here. So let's introduce the concept of approval tests. So as you know from Learning Hours, approval test is a snapshot testing library, which means it takes your tests and it takes the result, what you would assert against, serializes it to a file. On failure, it's going to open it in a diff tool, show you what you got versus what you expected if they are different. And then if you want to approve it, you can just move that over. So let's use approval tests in this test.
All right, let's try it. So it would be as easy as this, right? So I just say approvals was verify instead of this. And then I don't need this because this will come.
So let's run that.
Okay.
We've never approved this, so I'm expecting it to open up a diff tool, which it is. And is this
think
Same
this is our
marker.
messages. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that looks correct.
It's right, but I think it's a little bit hard to see.
Is there a way we
story
can
groups.
make it easier to see?
Yeah, you know what? Let me actually try something. I think I have like a printing for logs I'm doing. Let me just use sort of log. I think that would do it. Let's give this a try. Right?
That makes sense too. I've seen your logs. Your logs are usually nice. Yeah, let's use this.
Yeah, okay. And if I run it again, we approved it. So if I run it again, the test will pass. And basically what it did, it created this file over here. That's the approved file. So our test is now this code and this all.
And that's nice. We can actually clean it up just a little bit more. Let's just inline user message.
Yeah, okay. You're right. All right.
So now our test is one line.
Mhm.
Nice. All right, well, let's do a small retro.
All right.
So, Advanced?
What was it that you did to approve the test? Was it just a button click in the tool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that one more time. Lada,
Yeah. Yeah.
can we convert the second test as well?
Let me just undo this. I think it's just going to be easier. So I have no approval files, right? We just created this test. So if I run this, because the approval file doesn't exist here, it pops up the diff tool, and this diff tool can be whatever. It can be several diff tools. Here on the left, you see what the actual output is, and on the right, what is approved. Well, we have nothing approved, so it makes sense. And to move it, you see there's this button. You can also do this, like I just usually do this and press this, and that just copies the contents. So like physically, you can go and copy the contents if you want to. And this is approved, so that requires me to assess the test is correct, doing the right thing, right? And then you see there's two files, approved and received, and if I run it again, that received will go away and the test will pass because our output now matches what we approved here. Does that make sense?
Excellent question, Danny. Thanks.
Thank you for the question.
So let's go do a retro.
So wait, do you want to finish the testing circle?
Oh, that's a good point. So we now have a nice result, right? Like, so we started with this chat. Hi, here's your thing. We turn it into English. We turn it into code. It gives us a result, and that result sort of reminds us of this chat.
Yeah, but you know what? I kind of see that we see this result, right? And I see this input, but I don't see this hi in the whiteboard really. Like, wouldn't it be nice if we had something like this? Like, hi would be also here, and then
That actually would be nice because now it's really completing the circle.
Right, exactly.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave you to do that, but I think that would be really nice. Yeah.
Right.
All right, now let's retro. So, what happened here? We started with tests, which is great, right? Like I will take test over no test any day of the week. But the tests were really hard to understand. So we went back to the testing circle and said, what is this story this is trying to tell? And once we got that, we needed a way to sort of save that output. So we used approval tests to save that output. We took this huge amount of code, we turned it in, they had important stuff, right? And turned it into just a couple lines of code that was only the important stuff. Let's put those side by side. Does everyone see how this is just nicer?
Right.
Yeah. So what do we learn?
So basically, pay attention to the testing circle. If you have some noisy and clunky tests, take a step back, think about what story you're trying to tell, right? And testing circle can help with that. So you start with whiteboarding, then you just turn that whiteboard into English, and then try to match that code that you write into the same kind of amount of English, I guess, that you had in the English part. And then you get the result. Can be from approvals, for example, and then you kind of go back and assess, is this matching? Because when we went here, we saw that we could improve this to match the storyboard better.
Yeah.
Can I just do the test name real quick? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. The original test name.
The original test name?
What was the name of the test?
Yeah.
Bot
Okay.
clarifies intent on greeting.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
No worries.
Although really, I think of this as the bot's response to saying hi.
Yeah, and then
No, go on.
and then basically we use convenience functions to kind of raise level of abstraction to make our test on the same level of abstraction of our storyboard, right? We just extracted all the noise that we don't really care about. It's important, but we don't want to see it when we read the test.
Yeah.
And we use convenience functions to do that. And
That's
then we
the
also
same
had,
sort of thing you would do in regular code, right? Like, you
yeah,
wouldn't
exactly.
put it this away. It's just some
Right.
reason people don't tend to do it in their tests.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and then we just introduce approval tests. So now we have the whole story kind of told in this approval test that we can read. And we've got to improve this a little bit to include more of the story in the next iteration.
All right. Well, I'll see you next week, Lada.
Yeah, see you.
So Lada went back, worked with a team, and then she came back and found me in a week.
Yeah, hello on.
Hey, Lada.
So I did the thing we talked about. So check it out. Now the output looks like this. There's a customer part and then the bot part. I think it reads much better now. And I
Oh,
converted
much
a few
better.
more
And you've
tests to
added up
this.
more tests too.
Yeah. Mhm.
This is really nice. It looks like you are printing stuff using the storyboard. We should probably introduce that concept.
Right, that's a good idea.
So the idea here is that before we just had the output of the bot responses, right? But we want to tell a bigger story. And just like you would tell a story in a movie or something, the concept of a storyboard is useful. The simplest storyboard you can have is just a string that you add to, right? And you can think of that string as just like a blank canvas that you can now like paint your story onto.
Yeah, I think what was not obvious for me before when I just started with approvals was that storyboard actually, like, this is where you add different types of things here, right? So for example, previously we just had a glorified toString for commands. That's all it was. Now I'm like combining the input, the output, and I can throw more things, helper things into it. So kind of
That
to tell the
brings
story,
another
that helps.
concept that we should probably introduce, which is the
Right.
concept of a printer,
Mhm.
right? So a toString is like the most basic printer, but toString only ever, like, you have one toString per object. It might be the case that you want to show different objects in different ways. So we have a printer like the log printer we used before that printed the bot conversations. And it looks like we have a printer for the customer conversations as well.
Right.
Actually, though, can we go back to the code? Because there's still something I don't quite like about this. I get really anal about formatting, but it'd be nice. On line 2, can you just put some left padding white space before bot?
Oh, you mean like this?
Exactly like
Oh,
that. Can you change your
I
printer
see.
to do that?
I see what you're doing. Yeah, okay.
Cool.
So this is as easy as this.
We're going to have to reapprove things. So let's run them one at a time so we can just see them.
All right. So this is this guy that should just add the spaces. And it did. Yeah,
that's nicer.
I see what you're
I
doing.
like that.
I like it too. And then let's run this guy. Okay.
That's much nicer. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I want to kind of do something with it, but let's not worry about it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And
then
then
let's
the
do it
last
there.
one. Yep. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. What's going on here?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about it. So basically what it is, the bot can not just send text, right? Like here we just send the text to the customer, but it also can send buttons. Like this is a question of, so it sends the question, are you a customer to the person when they clarify intent? And like the buttons are right here, but like, you know what? I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep it here because on one hand, it seemed valuable to have verification for JSON, but it's so noisy, you know? Like,
Okay, I mean, I can definitely see maybe a separate test where we get the JSON and we print it out and we check that it's valid JSON, right?
Okay.
But for this test, this is definitely a problem for me. So let's start by stating the problem.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Let's start by understanding what this JSON is.
All right, so basically what it is when customer says hi, the bot replies the same way like before, right? But then when the customer clarifies the intent, what they want to do, the bot replies with buttons and asks, are you a customer? And then yes or no answers.
Oh, so it takes it out of like just free form text response
Exactly.
into sort of like multiple choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's great that JSON meant that to you, but
Mhm.
like that is not telling me that this doesn't work.
I mean,
So,
even to me, it's a little bit hard to see. So yeah, I get
yeah.
it.
So let's go look at those side by side. So
Right,
it asks, are you a customer?
right here.
Where's that in the JSON?
Yeah, here.
Okay, and then it also has this button for yes, I am a customer.
Right.
Where's that in the JSON?
Over here.
Okay, and then it also says no, I'm not.
Mhm. Right there.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to need you to make a printer for this JSON
Okay.
so that I can see that nicer.
Yeah, I think I really like your point because really, what's not clear is like we're trying to tell a story, right? And
Yeah,
verifying JSON is just another thing, probably like much lower level, that is in the way of telling the story. So I think
exactly.
I agree. I agree with just let's just abstract it away into pretty buttons, and I'll write another test for JSON.
That would be fantastic.
All right.
All right. Go forward one. Let's do a small retro of what happened this week.
Mhm.
So we left off last week. We had gotten our approval files, right? And when I came, and those approval files only showed the bot response. So when I came back, you had already added a printer and a storyboard, and that brought us to the fact that we can now see like more stories. But it also surfaced one of the things that we're printing is this like weird JSON.
Right.
Yeah. We did some formatting. This makes it a little bit nicer, but it makes a huge difference here. Like, look at how much easier it is to read the right than it is to read the left.
Mhm.
And you're going to make a printer for me for these buttons.
Yeah. It'll look something like this on the right. I think it'll be much better.
That sounds good. All right.
right.
Well, what did we learn today?
Well, again, focus on storytelling, and pay attention to what your tests are telling you. In this case, we took a third test and I was trying to tell a story, but there was all this noise. And you can express this in a better storyboard, and you can use printers to, again, use those to print. Like, for example, we were printing these buttons, right, better, or we were gonna print these buttons, but also like,
and you can use
just
them
pay
to
attention
print
to your output.
in the format that the story needs.
Right. And the formatting, like, make things nicer for yourself. How would you read it? How would prefer to read it, and then go back to printers and do it in the printers.
I mean, one of the things that's nice is like now we've gotten enough of the pain away from that first test that we can care about things like white space, right? Like when things are hard, yeah, they're bigger problems on your plate. Now we're at the level of white space. That's like a good problem to have.
Right.
All right. Well,
Right.
go take care of that, and
Yeah.
we'll check in next week.
All right, sounds good. See you next week.
So again, Lada goes back and works on the test, and then a week passes.
And hi, Llewellyn.
Hey, Lada.
So I did that button printing, nicer button printing that we discussed. Yes.
Oh, that looks
last
really.
week.
I like the little blank spaces too. Like it makes it really easy to say,
you
oh,
mean-
this bot
you
is
mean
saying
the-
a multiple thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought like if leveled this, we should also do this. Yeah, I like this too.
That's very nice.
So I started converting a bunch of other tests to this, and
Cool. Like you're getting a fairly robust test suite now.
exactly, yeah. And I like that I can see all the scenarios here. The only problem, like what I'm running into is like as I add more tests, basically each of this has an output in a file, right? So this guy is this file, and so on. So it kind of gets noisy and a bit hard to navigate between, and I have to open every file to read the actual scenario every time. So I kind of would prefer to have all of it in this test here. Kind of missing that.
Let's take the problem first.
Okay. Well, there's too many approved files right now. It's a bit hard to navigate.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're in luck. We have a nice and easy way of solving that.
All right.
Let me introduce you to a new concept of inline approvals.
Okay.
So the idea of inline approvals is just, okay, let's get rid of the files. It works really nice when you have small amounts of text in your file. I find like less than 10 lines tends to be good. And so here we see the output. It's in our test directly. And then you see the verify, right? Or the options. That's how you're going to invoke it. Does that make sense? When you do it this way and it fails, it's still going to open a diff reporter. But this time, instead of the approved file, it's going to have the original source file on the right-hand side and a possible new source file, what the source file would look like if it contained the received text. And what that means is now hitting that little orange button to move it over changes your source. So let's try this out in your code.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's try it out. Okay, how do I do this?
So first, we got to go to the verify call.
This one?
Yep.
Oh,
and
right. Options, right?
every approvals verify has an options. Yep. So we're this is like allows you to pass in additional configuration. We're going to do inline, and we'll just say what the expected is.
I don't have an expected.
Well, this is in a convenience function, so let's add it as a parameter.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I want to just introduce parameter and
do a default of just an empty string because we don't know what to expect right now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And now run it.
Oh, wow.
So again, here's what the code would look like if we did a multi-line Java string. Let's move that over.
That's so cool. Okay.
And then we were using the blank string, so we're gonna have to change that to an expected.
Oh, basically pass it here.
Yeah. So let's run that. That should now pass.
Oh, I really like it.
And that means we can get rid of that first file.
Nice.
Let's
okay,
try
I'll
it
delete them
again.
later. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me do another one. All right. So same deal. We run it first. This creates that, modifies the course, the source file. Actually, I can probably do something like that because nobody can stop me.
Yeah, you can edit right here.
Right. It'll show red, but it will be fine in the test. There you go. And if I run this, this will pass. Nice.
Nice. Let's do a quick retro. I'll leave you to do the rest of these on your own.
Sounds good. All right.
All right. So we left off last time where it's like we finally got a JSON printer, right? And so these our output is very nice and small. It's under 10 lines of code. And the tests are really easy to write. They're usually one line. And so we now have a lot of them.
Right.
And so now we have a lot of approval files, and it's just sort of nice to have these two things together. So we don't have to go to two different places. It wasn't a big deal when it was just one file. It becomes a bigger deal when it's like 7 files.
Right.
And there's an interesting trade-off here, right? Because before our test was really nice and small. Like you could see sort of the whole thing that we're doing, but you also had to include these 7 files.
Yeah.
Now our test is
to read the whole story, yeah.
To read it, yeah. And now our test is bigger because it includes that output. But any individual test, you can see the whole story just right there.
Yeah. I really like this.
Yeah.
Good.
So what do we learn?
So you can, if you want to see both the input and output, you can use inline approvals. Usually works very well with smaller output. Like you probably don't want to do the whole giant file in there. But with this kind of tests, I think it makes a lot of sense. And it allows you to see the story in here. So compared to like, it's very similar to regular unit test, but I guess this is like on this level of abstraction without much dev speak, right?
It's also
Still
nice that you
telling
don't
the
have
story.
to write that expected yourself.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And I love how it pops up and then like you can actually change your source code. I think it was pretty cool.
I like that too. All right, well,
All right.
I'll lead you to do the rest of that and I'll check in next week.
Sounds good. I'll comment the rest of them. See you next week.
See you later. So again, like Lada goes back This time, like something was a little bit bugging me. So I'm looking forward to see what Lada's done with it.
All right. Hello.
Hey, Lada.
So I converted the rest of the tests into inline approvals, and I really like it. Look at this. I can read all of it in one file, and the whole story is in there. I really like it, I think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The thing that's been bugging me about this is I do miss that I no longer, it's much harder for me to see like the space of your tests, right?
Oh, because this stuff was all those verified conversations
It used to be much closer together, right?
Oh,
And
I
now
see.
it's really far apart.
That's fair. Do you know a
So-
way to address that?
I do. So first I want to state the problem, just to make it clear.
All right.
I can't see your overall test strategy. All right. Like in the beginning, I was just happy to see tests at all, right? But now you have a lot of tests. And I want to know, like, are you missing tests?
Hmm.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's a concept that makes this easier, right? Sometimes we'll talk about like parameterized tests, but parameterized tests don't really work as nicely here. I want to use the concept of verify all.
Okay.
Right? Which is a way of saying I have a list of scenarios I want to test.
Mhm.
Let me test the entire list. And to do that, I'm going to need to refactor your code. So I want to introduce one more concept of many to one, which is
Alright.
just a very small refactoring technique that takes something from an individual variable to a list of a single variable.
Oh, I see. So basically, instead of verifying one thing in a test, you want to verify a list of things.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, let's try it out.
So let's do it with the first test. Conversations, this is hidden away, so let's inline it.
All right, just this one?
Just that one, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the inline.
Ah, okay.
So we're
Oh,
kind of
that's
taking a
like
step backwards.
Step back. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But sometimes refactoring, you have to go back to go forward.
Well,
Let's
we
get
don't need this guy
done.
then.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Okay. Let me try it. Ooh, but I really like that in line. But okay, let's try it.
Yeah, trust me a little bit though. I think we'll end up in a neat place.
Okay, okay. So I proved that.
So now we have this conversations. Now I want to do many of one. So instead of new conversations on the left, let's do list of conversations.
Okay.
And you can just var it on the other side.
Yeah. I'll just do that.
That works. And then for right now, just say conversations.get 0.
Oh, I see. So you basically just wrapped it in a list and immediately
Just
go on
wrapped it in a
posting.
list and then unwrapped it. It should
Got
work.
it.
Let's just test it and make sure we're exactly where we think we are.
Yeah, we should be. All right. So you converted
And
one test
now
into a list.
let's move it to a verify all. So
Okay.
we're going to say verify all. It takes a header. So let's pass it the string like bot conversations.
How about test scenarios?
Test scenarios. That works for me.
Nice.
We're going to pass it all our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to pass it a lambda. We're a single conversation. So C.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can take that conversations get 0 and just replace it with C.
All right. So like that. Okay.
So let's run that. Now we might have a little bit of formatting. We added that header. So it's going to be similar, but not exactly the same.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah, that's the diff, right? So the header and some white spacing.
White space, yeah.
Still looks good. So I'm gonna move it on. Okay.
And the advantage of this is now we can do that second test because that's just high pay bill. So let's just add that conversation.
All right. So we're at many of one, right? And now you want to do many of two, basically.
Exactly.
And that should be as simple as probably just grabbing another one of those. And let me see. Yeah. Like that?
Yeah, let's see how that looks.
Okay. Nice. At the same time, you know what? Like it starts to be a little bit harder to kind of read this, right? Because I kind of want a header here to say like scenario 1 or something like that.
Well, we already know about printers. Let's make a printer for our headers.
Ah, okay.
So where it says C goes to play conversation, say C goes to print header plus play conversation.
Okay.
Pass C into print header.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
Make exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's just return a multi-line string.
Multi-line string. Okay.
And let's put like a lot of stars.
Okay.
And another line of lots of stars.
Okay.
And then in between it, let's put a new line and put a star and just put a %s.
Oh, okay. That's where our header goes, right?
That's where our header goes. Yeah. So we'll use a dot formatted.
Okay. And we'll pass conversation.
Yeah. Let's see how that looks.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah. So now we
Okay,
can see
so
which
it-
conversation is which.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
All right. And then so have we converted the Nix test already, or scroll down?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
pay
that's
bill.
what we
Okay, so we
did.
can delete that. Let's do one more just to see it work.
Okay.
All
Mhm.
right, give that a run.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'll leave you to do the rest of those. Let's do a quick retro.
Mhm.
So we left off with a whole bunch of inlines, right? Which was really nice for an individual test, but the overall test was becoming hard to see.
Mhm.
So we took that sort of repetition, that duplication, and we moved it into a verify all and said, hey, here are the conversations that we want to do.
Yeah, and it basically took us a little bit back, which is I don't know how I feel about that yet, but the change, I guess, with the previous one is like all the conversations, the inputs are here together, and we only have one output file instead
Yeah.
of previously we had a bunch.
Set 7, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious where it goes. I'm gonna give it a try and see how I feel about it.
That sounds good.
All right.
So what do we learn this week?
So when you have many of the same kind of tests, right? You can, well, on one hand, you can use perm trace test, but in approvals, you can also use verify all to convert them into a list and just feed it to a function, and then get the output in the file. And you can pretty print that file to express the story better using printers, like we discussed it.
The header, yeah. And this also, like, we're starting to see the whole test suite now, right? And that's important, right? I want to see not just the trees, I want to see the forest.
All right.
All right, well, check it out, and I'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
So Lada goes back to her team, and we meet up the week after.
Yeah. So hey, Llewellyn,
Hey, Lada, what do you got for me?
I did that thing you wanted to try. And look at this. So basically now we have this file with all the test cases. I converted most of the other test cases into this same.
So this is not
into
like
the
a
same
directory
place.
listing of our test scenarios.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly. It's like a menu, right? And
Yeah.
then the answer is kind of here. You know what? I'm missing out a little bit. Like when I look at it, I kind of like it, but at the same time, I kind of miss that. The inline tests, because I kind of want both. But I don't know.
Well, I have a easier problem. Can you just sort
Okay.
these alphabetically? Because it's a little hard for me to parse.
Oh, you mean this? Oh yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
Like we
Okay.
put them all together so we could have similar things together.
Right. Yeah, I kind of missed that. Okay, let's fix that. So this high kind of sort of belongs here, and then there's this, and then
Pay bill, let's
pay
get them
bills.
together.
Yeah, let's group
Yeah.
them. Okay, fix this. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, let's run that just because we haven't changed any of the output, but the whole file is going to change. So let's
All right, that
deal
rearranges
with that
the whole output.
change.
Makes sense. Yeah, I would normally commit after this, I guess.
It would be bad that we'd have to read that for for understanding.
True. So let me just make sure that it's green. Yeah, awesome.
Okay, good. So we got high. I guess we're just testing multiple highs. High pay bill. Yeah, I'm a customer. High pay. Oh, I'm kind of expecting a no, I'm not a customer. Like,
Wait, I bet I had this test. I know I did. Oh, you know what? I think I missed it.
what's that?
Yeah. Okay. There you go. I see your point. I kind of missed it and didn't even realize.
Didn't realize you missed it. Yeah, that's easy to
That's fair.
do when it's all spread out.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so this would now add the test, and that's the only change. So
Is that the right response?
Yeah, okay, so let's see. The hi is the first message, then they clarify the intent, then they say, no, I'm not a customer, and we transfer to our operator, as opposed to the
Nice.
self-service for the yes case. Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. All right, and now we got everything in this. Wait, why do we still have inlines?
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this. So basically, this test is just like all of it is new conversation and only one conversation at a time. But here
Sure.
we're introducing there's two tests that are kind of touching upon now we need to remember what the customer said, so we don't sound like a parrot when they come back. So here we said pay bill, and then the customer says what they want, and then answer that yes, they're a customer. Next time when they come, we don't want to say are you a customer again.
Yeah, I should have expected this. So a lot of times when you have like 20 things, like 18 of them are identical, but 2 of them are sort of a little bit different.
Yep.
All right. So again, let's start by stating our problem.
All right.
We now got almost all the tests together.
Yeah.
So I guess we need yet another concept,
All right.
which is we've made convenience functions to like verify stuff, but we're also need some convenience functions to express our scenario, right? These are usually referred to as domain-specific language, excuse me, or a DSL. So let's go back and can we look at the thing where it has 2 conversations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, this guy.
Yeah, so you have okay, so we have these lines 62 through 64. You create your first conversation, you take your second conversation, you put them together in a list of conversations. So what I sort of want to do is I sort of want to just combine this into one line. So we have that first conversation, pay bill, yes, I'm a customer. At the end of it, can you put a dot and say, and then in parentheses, pay bill. So I sort of want to do that.
And then meaning like in the next conversation, right?
The next conversation, yeah.
But yeah, maybe let's just say that and then conversation.
And then I like that even better. Okay, so comment that line out for a second.
Okay.
We're gonna come back to this. But first, can you go to conversation, the convenience function you have on 62?
Oh, this guy?
Yeah, can you just clone that and give me a conversation B?
B, okay.
All right, so let's go back up to where we were.
Right.
And let's change this to conversation B.
Okay.
And then we can get rid of the and then. So let's uncomment that. Let's bring that back in because I want to do this. And then there's semicolon.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. I see that. Yeah, we can't create it because I guess we can create it here, but
go back.
Yeah, so it returns a conversation.
It returns a conversation. We add it on conversation, but then we need a list of conversations.
Yeah, I think we need a wrapper.
Okay, so let's go. So go back, comment that out for a second. Let's first make conversations B return a list of conversations.
Makes sense. So I'll just wrap it into a list.
Yeah.
Oh, what I'm doing. Not quite. All right. Then this one, I do that.
Good. Okay, now let's go back. Well, first run that.
Well, it won't compile.
Oh, it won't compile. Yeah, that's okay. So first let's add the then conversation.
Right. Well, let me make this.
Semicolon again.
Yeah.
Now we can. No, we can't create that method. Oh, because we don't own list. Okay, yes. Sorry. So instead of returning a list of conversations on line 132, just say new multiple conversations.
Okay, so you're basically wrapping it into an object.
We'll make an inner class on this.
Okay.
Right. It implements list. List is instead of implementing a list, let's extend array list because list is an annoying thing to implement. Okay, so that gets us here. Here, the first thing we're gonna have to do in our constructor is just add conversations to our list. So
Mhm.
nice and easy. And then if we still want to change something, we're gonna have to actually change our return signature on 132 to multiple conversations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, now if we go back, can I add that?
I think you should be able to. Yeah, because we own it now.
Very good. Okay, so now
So
this is going to return a multiple conversations as well.
All right, because we're doing the chaining. Makes sense.
Yeah,
And that should be messages.
this is the
as well.
messages. It actually, that should be a var args. Because
Right, makes sense.
so first thing, add a new conversations.
I need to create it here, right? So we just
Yeah.
need to. Okay.
And then return this.
Okay. So we do the chaining this way. Got it.
So let's go back. This is a fair amount of change. So let's see if we can delete 65 and 66 now
Mhm.
and pass in that variable. And that should still work, but let's see if it does.
Yeah, nice.
Okay,
It
so that's
works.
good. Now I want to go back to our verify all.
Okay.
And instead of using conversation, can you just change all those to use conversation B?
Oh, I see. So like this.
And
Okay.
that's breaking 38. So can we change? I think you had a S on that.
Like this. Okay.
Yeah, let's see if that works. So now everything has a multiple conversations that only has one conversation.
Still works. You don't have to.
Now we can move that conversation up into our list.
Oh, right. So now basically we extended our language to this.
Yeah, and let's
Now
run
we
that.
have single
that still works.
conversations and multiple. Right, so that should fail because this is a new thing that we just moved in here. And only that, yep. Looks
Good. So we can delete that whole second test.
Right.
And now we can add the other test as well.
Oh yeah, so that's as easy as just doing this. Let me just grab this message. I think that's the only difference. Do this one. Okay, that should work as well.
I think we have a little more cleanup to do after this.
Let me improve this.
So
Okay,
let's get rid of that test.
That's
That's
unuseful.
great. So we can get rid of that convenience function now.
Yep. Okay.
Conversation is also great, so we can get rid of that.
Yep.
And that means we can rename conversation B to just conversations.
Yeah, thank you.
Or conversation, yeah.
Yeah, conversation is probably this is a bit confusing. Sounds good. I
Okay.
see. That combined, yeah, that solves the problem. And it's nice because it just basically expresses it in a way that's
And now we can actually see the full. Before we were seeing 95%, now we're seeing the full thing.
makes sense.
Let's do a retro.
Okay.
Okay, so we left off last time where we had a verify all of almost everything.
Mhm.
And we wanted to get it to a verify all of actually everything.
Right.
And to do that, we had to pay attention to how we could express what it is we're trying to do. Right? So we had to put a little bit more effort into building the domain specific language that we're doing. We'd already done a little bit of that again, right? Like even a convenience function is a DSL of very small amounts. And obviously you had to create this conversations class. So that's nice. But here now we have the full thing.
Right.
Okay. And yeah, it's a small change, but look at how much easier it is to read. And now you can add it to your list really easily too.
Right. Then combine them all into one
Yeah.
thing. Nice. So this is what the end result looks like right now.
Yeah.
And I guess what we learned is, well, again, pay attention. And when you have some differences in what the test does, and so you can combine it with the rest, you can introduce this convenience function and even DSLs if you want to express it in the domain language, the test case. And that allows you to basically both see the individual test cases and the overall picture.
And the fact that we had like a forest let us see the things that now we're on the outskirts of the forest.
Right.
All right. Well, I think we're pretty good. I'll leave you to that.
All right. Thank you. See you next week.
So Lada went back, and this time she came back and surprised me.
Right. Hey, Llewellyn.
Hey, Lada.
So I did something that I really wanted to show you. Check it out. So you know how I was like had this nagging feeling of I really like this. I see what you're doing with this, but also I really miss my my inline tests.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thinking this is just like a menu, you know, like this is a menu.
Yeah.
It would be so nice if I just click it and then it takes me to the actual like inline thing.
Yeah.
Here. So and also like I can't just go and send this stuff to my stakeholders, right? The tests are very nice, but right now only developers are using it.
Yeah.
So I think you introduced to me a concept that I've used here and I found very useful. So remember you said you can also use Markdown, for example.
That's true. I mean, approval tests by default are text, but they don't have to be. They can be anything.
Right. So I use this here, and previously my test was printing out the text file, right? So you saw the text file with stuff.
Yeah.
I just basically switched it to print and Markdown, and it was like your documentation was great. So I just basically did this. So here with extension of MD, and then I
Okay.
had to change my printers to actually print Markdown, right? So there's a little bit of work
Yeah.
there. But in the end, look at the result. So now I have the menu and I see my test scenarios too. So like all.
And are those clickable?
Yeah. So I can like click here and it takes me to this.
Very nice.
Yeah,
That's so easy to read.
Right. And we can also embed it in the documentation. So we can actually put it on the website, right? And the stakeholders can refer to it and they can be like, is this test implemented? Is it not?
Show me that on the repo.
Oh yeah, so check it out. So if you go to is it final documentation, right?
Yeah.
This guy. So here, that's a test page. Like you can go to this and click something. It takes you to the scenario. Like you can improve it further.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, and you can like enhance it to print something else, right? The tests, like say what the gist of scenario is. So yeah, I kind of really like it.
Nice. Okay. Well, it's definitely time to recap this entire journey.
Right. So we fixed the problem that we had, right? The tests were only for developers, and we took it all the way to the storytelling, and there's no reason why we can't include other people into the story, right? We can
Absolutely. Developers are not the only people who have a stake in this.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of concludes our end. Like and also like pay attention. Like we always had this little nagging feeling every time. Like I like it, but what would be so nice if it also did this? Or I want to.
I mean, it's weird, right? Like you think we could just go straight to the end, but that's just sort of not how brains work, right? It's like as you clear the immediate problems, your brain now starts to be able to see more. Right.
And there's no way we could have seen like this end from that, right?
Yeah.
From the first test. So
and who knows? Like maybe in a year there'd be a whole nother section of this map.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like with code, you know, your tests are speaking to you.
Yes,
and
exactly.
If you listen to it and try things. And I think one thing like I liked also Llewellyn, like I wasn't convinced about this verify all completely because I was kind of missing out the inline part. And I think it was an important step because that allowed me to go to, yes, that is a step forward in that we can see the menu now, right? But actually I want to like not just see the header of the menu, I want to see the whole thing. Exactly. So that was very cool, I thought.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing, I guess. So this is we did with approval tests. There's no reason you can not do this with JUnit, right? The convenience functions are applicable.
I think the lessons here like are applicable in different domains. Also, like maybe some of these are useful to you and maybe some of them aren't. Take the pieces that are, right? This was our journey, right? Your journey will look different.
Right.
Yeah, but look at the change of where we started and where we ended up.
Right. It's funny because the whole test, like the size is the same.
Yeah. Right. In the end, our entire test suite matches that first one test.
Exactly. Yeah. So and think about like if I drag a new developer in here and be like, hey, can you write me a test? He can start here, and also like we're already in BDD. Like we swapped into BDD. That file over there means that we can start BDD now.
I
So
mean,
I-
we
I'll write-
added that, no, I'm not a customer test, almost
Mhm.
as like a side note, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So let's just go over, because there's a lot of stuff that happened in this session. But the main thing, the main focus here is that we are focused on our tests, not like when you, especially when you're doing asserts, I think it's very easy to look at your test as the job of the test is to validate something. But that is not how we're looking at our test. I mean, yes, they do validate something. They keep correctness for us. That's not important. But they also have this ability to tell a story. And so we have been looking at this entire thing from the lens of storytelling. What is the story our tests are trying to tell? And to tell that story, the first thing we did is that we went to the testing circle. The testing circle is a great way to just create a single story. What is the story that we're trying to tell?
Mhm. And
And
that
to tell
basically
us-
means that we took a step back and thought about it, right? Although we
Yeah.
had already something decent. Mhm.
Maybe a step that we had sort of neglected or skipped over in the beginning.
Right.
And to tell that story, we needed tools. And the first tool is the storyboard, right? A storyboard is just a blank canvas where we can say, hey, what is this thing that's happening, right? And to put stuff on that canvas, we needed printers.
Right.
So the printers are the things that said, hey, here's how I put the header. Here's how I put what the customer said. Here's how I put what the bot said. Here's how I express buttons. Like all of this stuff is little printers, right?
Right.
But we also now need to capture that storyboard. So we used approval tests first to capture that into text files. We also used approval tests to capture it as inline approvals. Both of these are capturing the output of this storyboard. But also to actually like create the story, we needed convenience functions, right? That allowed us to stay at the same level of abstraction. And then sometimes we need to go a step further into like domain DSLs. But all of this allows us to express what's happening in the testing circle. The storyboards allow us to capture what happened from the story. And once we do all of that, we get a single test. And now we have lots and lots of tests. And we want to see the individual test, but we also want to see the test suite.
Right.
And to do that, we use verify all. But then we pushed it just a little bit farther into Markdown. And now we are sharing that story, not just with developers, right? But we're sharing that story with stakeholders.
Yeah.
And now the whole group is involved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. Thank you. I'd heard a lot about this before, but the Markdown thing was like, I got to get off right now and start changing stuff on my personal. That was amazing. That's excellent. I love when I see things like that, and a lot of people in the chat and a lot of people, I think really I enjoyed this format of the sort of the storytelling and the interaction that you guys had, and the live coding was actually really good too. So looks like there's a couple questions. George, you wanna jump in?
Yeah, I was just curious, have you already thought about moving into multiple Markdown files and using the Markdown files as effectively new requirements?
Yeah,
So-
I think that's exactly what happened, right? Because I was thinking, wait, we just didn't even notice, but we went into BDD suddenly. Because there's no reason I can't just write a test in there. It will be red, which is perfect, right? We start with the red test in BDD. And I kind of really like how, I think this is what I like about approvals a lot, because it's like printers, like it's so much flexibility in there. There's no reason to kind of stay only at test level, on unit test level. You can also kind of do many things. You can do test, like unit tests, you can do BDD, you can do all kinds of things with it. Go ahead, Llewellyn, you want to add something?
Well, and sometimes like as we have different stories, we will have different Markdown. And sometimes we can actually also use things like Markdown and just ingest it to create maybe our list, right? That's not what was appropriate in this story, but it has been appropriate in other scenarios.
Chase?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was only able to join for the end of it, but I catch the gist of it. And I'm curious how your stakeholders are engaging with this, and specifically how this is succeeding where Cucumber and Gherkin failed to catch on with many product managers, other than it's, every user story.
So comparing it with Cucumber and Gherkin are hard for me. I have not, there's a lot of the promise of Cucumber and Gherkin. Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear your experience. I have not been in a place yet where actually involved the stakeholders.
Yeah, I actually started my career as product owner, so I worked with Cucumber quite a lot. I think what the difference is, like, it requires a lot of setup, like you have to actually do stuff to support it, and still like just a little bit more overhead. It can work as well, right? But here, like, zero overhead. We're in same tests, we just like expanded the scope of them to also be kind of BDD style tests.
Oh, so you're saying like it emerges as opposed to from the get creation, from the start.
Right.
Yeah, there are no step definitions, which of course is useful, but people who are doing Gherkin-y things, like they'll just do it directly and in the tests without, going through Cucumber. I've seen a lot of that.
But I think Cucumber also it helps you with a lot, but also it limits you a bit, right? So here we have so much flexibility because printers is like, you can print whatever you want. You can print a file if you want, like an image if you want. With the Gherkin is still like getting used to this, like how it reads and so on. So there's a little bit of kind of text speak in there, I think, compared to this just a plain board.
But also, like, regardless of what tech you want to use to implement these solutions, if you're in Gherkin and you're telling your stories and the stories are clear and people understand them, like, you've hit the goal. Like, the goal is, let's make it easy to tell the test scenario stories, understand them, read them, easy to write, easy to read. If you've hit that, regardless of your tech, you're good.
Yeah, I'm now thinking about how we can spit out the Gherkin files.
So one of the things that I've done in my career to try and make that leap into having non-tech people writing stories is playing around with Cucumber, Gherkin, things like that. And that always seems to fall flat. However, what I saw here is it's possible you could write a spreadsheet or take a spreadsheet, which is business speak to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And show them how to change it into a CSV that could then be used.
I mean, the thing that's nice about this is that they can modify like that, the Markdown file incorrectly, because I have to reapprove it anyways, right? And so like it's like they're sending me a request, but they're not completing, it's not like the full circle, right? So the moment like the programmer comes in, that's when the programming mindset has to apply. When they're doing it and reading it and saying it, like at that point, they're just a product owner. They don't have to get it correct, because that's not the thing that's executing. And product owners are good at a lot of things, and they don't tend to be good at programming. Like they get upset with details.
It is wonderful. My head exploded with the Markdown. That is, and what I love about that is it's the equivalent of opportunities to learn and discover how something you created is being used by others and in ways that you didn't expect it to be.
Yeah. Marka.
Yeah, thanks. I was just wondering, did you have a feeling you're losing time fiddling around the text and getting it to work, since you have been kind of ejected from the kind of compiler into free text, and now various errors can happen? And also, kind of as a side question, what happens when you have like 50 tests and then you change your printer?
I mean, so what happens is that, you remember we rearrange the entire order of stuff. Like it pops up, you reapprove. There's an approver that will actually allow you to do it as a single command line. So as long as you make your steps discrete, it works really well, right? You say like, hey, I want to change this printer. I see my effect. I hit the button. All 50 files approve. That part's not a problem. In terms of like, do I feel like we're wasting time? I mean, this might be slightly due to the dynamic with me and Lada, but we have a reasonably good dynamic of we will try each other's idea, even when we think it's bad, right? And so we are happy to waste time together trying ideas. And I think the reason for that is we have found that even when we do the bad ideas, often, even when they're bad, there are good things that come from them, right? And so like this is a philosophy that shows up in mob programming a lot, but I find it really useful is, you know, there's a lot of value in just experimenting and trying things. Even if a lot of it ends up wasteful, the value you get from the ones that aren't way outweighs the time you spend. So I don't see it ever as a waste of time. And in fact, in preparing for this talk, we had places where we were experimenting with stuff and we were under pressure to get the whole talk together. And we'd be like, we know this is the wrong use of time right now, but we're going to do it anyways. And most of the time it was a good choice.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, my experience with Cucumber is that it goes against good developer experience. And so I've always done it this way whenever, you know, my clients would let me, is to just render something from source code as opposed to try to, you know, code in the style of I have to break it into steps, I have to write all the glue code, I have to pass the context from step to step, right? This to me is just much more natural, and given how much stuff we have to do these days, I think it's just one little thing that just, you know, makes life more enjoyable.
Yeah, my experience has been the same, that code is a much more flexible medium for me.
Trace again?
Where is that unmute button? Oh, there we go. Yeah, as Paige and Steve will tell you, the person who wants to AI all the things, even when you perhaps shouldn't, you know, we'll be talking about this next month. We're going to facilitate a discussion about you know, generative AI throughout the SDLC. So given that what you have here is, you know, more text coming in, have you been using generative AI to either create or review any of this stuff? And do you find it easier, given the storytelling nature, than when you're using it to generate code?
Yes and no. So first of all, inline approvals is great for generative AI, right? Because you can give it a unit test as a single piece. So actually, most of the time, if I'm going to send a unit test to you to chat, I will inline it first, and instead of trying to say, "Hey, here's my test plus the approved file," right? It's just easier to inline it and be like, "Here's the thing." What I have found for generating code with AI is that, so like, when I add that next case, so like if we think of the last case, Lada was adding like, hey, what happens when you come back in the conversation, right? There's a whole bunch of steps between the part where it's like, here's the part in the code where it remembers state. And as humans, that's a skill set like we have. We're like, okay, there's like 20 steps that occur between here and there, and they're not important, and I'm going to ignore them. And so when I add this one case, it's really pushing on this one function. Chat cannot do that. So very often what I will do is I will write my test like that, but I won't give it to chat because it gets confused. And then I will write a micro unit test that just goes directly to the one function. And I can give that to chat and have it generate me the code. And then I use this test to test that the overall thing is still working with chat's new code. If that makes sense, right? So learning to break problems down into that, and maybe that will change as like $6 trillion worth of hardware shows up in behind backing chat. But at the moment, that is what I'm seeing.
Yeah,
Also, 100% you should be programming with AI. Like the programmers who are still programming like it's 2022 are going to die. Don't be one of those people. I have one question for the whole group, if you don't mind. I mentioned this is our first time delivering this talk. I find that we are usually the worst possible people to title the talk. Would you mind throwing into chat, having seen the talk, what you think the best title for this talk would be?
And you know what? While they're doing that, I'll talk. Trace touched on this a little bit next month. Trace Wax is gonna give us a talk called Beyond Autocomplete, generative AI through the SDLC, and he has an extremely good wealth of knowledge around AI, and it's exciting to it's exciting to hear him talk about it because he's really excited about it, and it's going to be a great talk. So please join us for that as well.
Yeah, thanks. Looking forward.
Oh, and one suggestion I saw come up in the chat was maybe, Lada, if you could turn on your presentation mode, or the presentation, you know, that it pops up your keystrokes and that sort of thing when you're giving this.
Oh, in IntelliJ. That obviously
I was actually
good.
I
Yes,
was
thank
actually
you.
looking for it. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a plugin that needs to be installed.
I actually have it installed, and I think they broke something in IntelliJ. I usually always had it on.
Cool.
So like
Yeah,
but it's a good
presenter mode
suggestion.
or something like that.
Under
Yeah.
plugins. Yeah.
There's an assistant, right? That's good. No, that was the tool.
No, it is a plugin. Yeah.
I know I had it. I always keep it on for my team when we mob. So
Yeah.
let me see. There'll be plugins. Let me find plugins. I'm sharing screen, right?
Yeah, and then say installed.
Right. Thanks. Yeah, actually, I thought about it yesterday. Oh, okay. But in Marketplace, I couldn't find it.
Just like another tip for people in general, one of the things we just discovered that was super useful was the week.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
so check it out.
show us that one.
Let's check it out. I'll show you how, but like, if you want to open the same setup in files in IntelliJ, it was really hard to get to it. But what it is in tools, basically you have this task and contexts, and you can just say save contexts. And when load context, I basically created just a hotkey for that. And now I can, not go to this, but like just do this. And it shows you here's that stuff. And it just
It'll open up the files in the configuration in your window, and that was super useful.
Yeah, because I would have to, when I show things, I would have to open this.
Oh, that's
split
awesome.
view and arrange again. Yeah.
Are those different?
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, is this the same like project? You're just opening up a different, like you've configured this file and this on the right, basically.
Yeah.
Same project, yeah.
Equivalent to this would be like, right, we're in week 1. I need to go to week 2. I need to open this. Then I need to open this. Oh, let me just I'll do this, and that, and also say open to the right, please. But that still does that, right? Not great. And I have to be like, and not the thing you probably want to look at when we're presenting.
Another like weird little tip while we're just on the weird tips section of this is almost all of our stuff was generated here in am I sharing the right screen? Am I sharing the chat?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we use chat to generate our stuff. You can ask chat for a image ID. And then you can ask it to create other images using the same style of that image ID, which is how we got, consistency in our image output for the talk. It's almost like having an individual artist be able to create you lots of sketches. It was quite a useful little thing if you're ever trying to get a bunch of photos or pictures that have a same style.
The equivalent of a style sheet.
Yeah, like a style sheet. Yeah, but for an artist that isn't an actual human.
Yeah, and it was pretty good at taking hints. Like, for example, if I show you this, just because it's fun. So I got it to, there was a lot of pictures, trying to be like express the concept of a woman working on a chatbot. You know, I got it to this, and I'm like, well, yeah, but it doesn't look quite like that. So I'm like, cool. Can you change the hair? And it did. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that ability to have that conversation around the image generation is really nice. Where it's really hard to do that in Midjourney. You have to sort of just reprompt each time.
Mhm.
Excellent. Well, thank you both very much, and this has been a great presentation, as it always is with you two. It's really enjoyable, and a quick shout out for Agile Open Northwest coming up at the end of next month in Portland. 3 days of open space conference and fabulous people and great communication and conversation. $350 for 3 days, including breakfast and lunch both days. It's a steal, and it's the best
It really is. It's a
conference
great
that
conference.
I go to. Yeah.
And there is a strong crafter presence, a strong technical crafter presence. What you're seeing right now, I'm looking at my screen. I'm seeing me. I'm seeing Paige, Jay, Llewellyn. Cody's going to be there.
Lada,
Matt's,
Amanda, Matt.
I mean,
Ozzy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And we code into the night. It's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. A lot of times the best insights of my year come from this conference.
Fabulous.
Yep.
I also want to really express how I'm happy to speak here, because you're just the best crowd, really. Like, I had a lot of talks, and I saw Llewellyn talk as well a lot. And this is my first talk, so I felt much, safer, and I knew it would be okay, just because you're an amazing crowd. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are great.
You did awesome, and you are welcome to come back anytime, and we can reach out and do more. It's awesome.
Appreciate it.
And that goes out to the whole community here. Is we support Codecraft, and part of Codecraft is spreading our knowledge and presenting. We're a safe environment. I love that you felt safe to do this. We support that, and we help as well, whatever we can.
Yeah, if you have an idea and about something you'd like to present, even if you haven't done it before, just send us a note to either Steve or myself, and we'll make it happen. It'll be excellent. So,
and we can help you make it happen. And if really need be, we could do a co-presentation. But a lot of it, we try to encourage people to stand on their own feet and try it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's the end for today. It was great to see everybody.
Awesome.
Steve, do you